Hey everybody, Steve here. It's Monday night, which means it's time for the AFR Game of the Week and the AFR Question of the Week. Alright guys, so new format here that I think we're going to stick with for a while, having a combo show with both the Game of the Week and the Question of the Week in one show. And I kind of like it on Monday night, but we'll see how it works. I may end up moving it to Friday night. But anyways, moving on to the results from last week's games. So the theme was New Beginnings, and it was about taking on a new project, kicking things off, and seeing what happens. For myself, I finally was able to kick off my 2015 Scram season. That's the fictional stock car racing set for Play.com's Red, White, and Blue Racing. And it was an exciting race. I actually got in 2 races. I forgot how much fun this game was, and I was able to get in that second game this week. So in my first race, the Copper State 500, it was veteran racer Ray Bob Walker in the 33 car who took the checkered flag. And it was a really back and forth race. It was wide open, and it saw over a dozen lead changes throughout the race, with Ray Bob finally taking the lead in the 47th turn of the race out of 50, and he held on for the last 3 turns of the game to pick up his first victory of the season. And then in the second race, this was at the notorious Motor Dome, the Northern Lights Motor Dome. It's known as one of the hardest tracks in the Scram series. It didn't disappoint. It had a lot of wrecks throughout, and there was 4 separate yellow flags, and it was the number 92 car, Tom Rossi, who took the win, and this was actually his second year in a row of winning that race. So one of the great things about this Scram season, it's now in its 5th season. The 2016 season is going to be coming out in just a couple of weeks. And so I've kept track of all of the winners from all of these races. So it's really nice to have a history going on in this fictional NASCAR-like universe here, and just seeing repeat champions come up on some of the same tracks. As for viewer submissions, we had 2 really good ones this week. First, over on the Play.com forums, Bob Jinkerson posted a recap of the opening day of the 1962 baseball season between the Cardinals and the Mets. And in real life, it was a rout, and the Redbirds won 11-4. However, Bob was able to guide the New York team to an exciting 2-1 win, with all of the runs coming off home runs for New York. It was Gil Hodges who socked a 2-run homer. And for the Cardinals, they got a solo shot from Ken Boyer. Bob, thanks for sharing the recap and for all of your memories of that game. The other game of the week that was sent in from a viewer was from Jim Suprint, who had a sort of a restart of a project that he started last year with Face to the Mat Wrestling. And he was using the fictional card set that comes with that game, and he divided them up into 2 different federations. And instead of just either randomly crowning champions or making up a past winners, he decided to start them right from scratch and hold 2 separate tournaments for each of them to crown the first champions of his league. And he got a little caught up and wasn't able to get to the first pay-per-view for those to crown those champions, but he did leave a recap of how far he is in it. You can see the full recap on the comments from last week's show. Jim, it sounds really exciting, and Face to the Mat is definitely a game that is easy to get into and run a year-long series or multiple years and see what happens. So good luck with that, and please leave us a recap when you have your first champions of your 2 federations. So now moving on to this week's game of the week. I'm going to call it Keeping the Pedal to the Metal. And if you have an ongoing project and maybe you've sort of gotten away from it and done a couple other things for one reason or another, this is the week you can jump back in and move that project forward. So as for myself, I'm going to continue my 2015 Scram season. I'm up to race number 3 of 32, and I'll see if I can get maybe 2 or 3 races in this week, and I'll let you know what the recap of those is, as well as viewer submissions next week on the show. Alright guys, and now it's time for the question of the week. So last week we had the return of the question of the week contest, and it was for the all-time franchise great set that just came out for second season football. Had a lot of entries in the contest. Thank you to everybody who left a comment about their least or most favorite championship game win or loss, I suppose. First up, we had the 1980 men's U.S. hockey team defeating the Soviet Union in the semifinals of that Olympic championship. Well, that was definitely a great moment in U.S. sports, and something that anybody who witnessed it, I'm sure, will never forget. Next, we had some votes for Super Bowl III, where Joe Namath made the guarantee, and they pulled the stunning upset against the Colts, and maybe helped create the modern Super Bowl history, because that led to the NFL and the AFL finalizing their merger. So definitely a big moment in sports history, and something that helped set the tone for future Super Bowls. And then finally, the one that got the most votes was the 2004 Red Sox, and it actually got a couple votes for their favorite championship, with the Red Sox coming back from a 3-0 deficit to defeat the Yankees in the ALCS, and then it also received a vote as a least favorite championship. So definitely that's a big moment in sports history, the Red Sox finally overcoming the Yankees to make it to the World Series, and then of course sweeping the Cardinals to win their first championship in 86 years, breaking the curse of the Bambino, and really turning around sports here in the Boston area. So thank you again to everybody who submitted a comment. The winning comment that was selected this week came to us from Paul Wisham, who selected the 1984 Orange Bowl. So Paul, that was an interesting selection for your favorite game, or I guess least favorite championship game. It was one that I hadn't really remembered. I wasn't a really big college football fan back when I was a kid, so I clicked on the YouTube link that you shared, and this was the game where Nebraska went for 2. They managed to storm back, and they were down 31-30, and instead of going for the tying point after, they went for 2 points in the win, and it was an incomplete pass. The try was no good, and Miami held on for a 31-30 win. So Paul, congratulations on the win. Please shoot me an email to stevenatower@gmail.com. I'll send that along to Keith over at play.com, and you'll get your full color PDF of that all-time franchise great set. So no contest this week, but I do have another question of the week. And this week I'd like to know, what kind of project do you think is the easiest to complete? And I ask this because, as I said, I'm now in the middle of my 4th Scram season that I'm playing through, and I have to say that it actually is a pretty easy project to complete. And the reason for that is that you control every car that's out on the racetrack. Well, you don't actually control them, but the game controls them, so to speak, and you have to make some decisions here and there about when they'll challenge and whatnot. But as far as just a full season where you're not abstracting anything or rolling any instant results, and something that doesn't really take a lot of time to complete, I can usually finish a race anywhere from, say, 30 minutes to maybe an hour and a half, depending on the length of the race and depending on how many wrecks happen during the race or how many rare events pop up. So, but they're all very fun races to play out, and it seems like before you know it, you're at the end of the 32 races and you're crowning a new season champion. So I'd like to know, what projects do you feel are the easiest to complete on your tabletop? As always, I'll highlight some of your responses on next week's show. Alright everybody, that is all for now. Thank you for watching. My name's Steve, and until next time, get out there, have fun, play games, and I'll see you after further review.